Hello, everyone. My name is Evan Miller, and today I'm going to be going over the article Inside AT&T's Radical Talent Overhaul, which can be found on Harvard Business Review's website. Now, before I continue into the article itself, I already have my first question for everyone right off the bat. Number one, have you been through organizational culture change? If yes, what went well? What failed? How did it feel during that time? And if no, what do you think you would like and dislike the most if you were a part of cultural change at a workplace? Personally speaking, I have not been a part of a major organizational culture change. I've been through a few small changes, but nothing major. Now, onto the article itself, and I need to preface what AT&T did with why it needed to do this. Because cultural change, as I said, is a huge change. And the reason for it is four factors. Now then, by definition, we can find it in the book. These cultures within businesses are pervasive, spreading across the entire country. They're long lasting, or as the book says, enduring. They're implicit or simply understood, engaged with unconsciously rather than explicitly. And it has ties into every part of the organization. So trying to change something like that is a big ask. So why would AT&T do this? Well, they have a good reason. It was born out of the necessity for survival. As the article puts it, and as a direct quote, AT&T employs about 280,000 people who got their education and foundational job training in a different era, referring to the fact that the new technological landscape that we live in with the cloud and such is vastly different from the one that these people have been trained and been working with for years now. And this, at the time of the article, 2016, was a problem faced by many electronic companies, as they all struggled to get people capable of working with the new technology. The article does go into some data about how hard it was to fill up these positions, but to put it simple, AT&T need a different way to handle this problem. So they push for cultural change, pushing for a new culture of perpetual learning, as the article states. The reason for perpetual learning instead of simply retraining is that the new fields that all these people were going to be going into, they're constantly advancing and they're changing incredibly rapidly. And the people would not only need to learn this stuff now, but be ready and willing to relearn almost everything within a year or two when things change that drastically again. So this called for a new way of thinking, acting, and working, as well as how people should be working together to keep learning and growing. So what did they do? How do they go about trying to achieve this cultural change? Well, the first thing is they cut out a bunch of the bulk of jobs. And I'm not saying they removed jobs, they condensed and simplified. Second, they changed how performances in these jobs were reviewed and evaluated, as well as the applicable compensation for these, such as pay and benefits. And then they adjusted their expectations to promote interchangeable skills, mobility, and flexibility, both by having the simplified jobs and by having clear and more forthcoming about how employees could advance, promoting the idea of being more in control of one's career. And this third point, the whole being in control of one's career, has a special name, corporate lattice. It's a type of thinking that, as the article puts it, the principle that individuals actively own their development. AT&T is working to instill a mindset in which each individual becomes CEO of his or her own career, empowering to seek out new skills, roles, and experiences. Basically, it's a more encompassing way of explaining the idea of perpetual learning. And this actually brings us into my second question for everyone. How do you feel about the corporate lattice idea? And as a refresher, real quick, the corporate lattice is a thought process where employees become more in control of their work, their potential movement within the company, and more, such as their responsibilities for such. Personally, I'm kind of feeling this as a mixed deal. There's some good. Being more in control is good for the workers, but at the same time, it's also promoting the idea that everything is up onto you, nothing else. And that, to me, is a slippery slope. But that's my own personal reasons, and I will get into it now, but we got other things to look into. So, another reason, another thing that they changed is they set up a fund to help pay for the classes needed that the workers would need in order to get these new positions and all that. But they expected the workers to put in their own personal time. And after a point, they expected the workers to put in their own personal finances in for the classes to obtain certification or nano degrees to show mastery in them. Once you got your degree, you'd get back the amount you paid into the class, but, well, you could lose it if you don't complete it. And this is a lot of changes. I went over 4, and those could all have been dumped into like a dozen changes in and of themselves. But I want to dissect what the workers are expecting to change in. Because in the end, that's who it comes down to most. They were expected to change the ways they think and understand, to push themselves into a mindset of constant learning. I don't know about you, but I get exhausted after 3 classes. And if they're saying, yeah, on my time off, I'm doing 2, 3, 4, 5 classes, that's a big ask. They're experiencing changes in their job roles, their job responsibilities, their pay and benefits, all their compensation because of this change. They're expecting change in what is expected of them outside of work hours, going from time alone to time that they need to use to constantly improve and grow. That's a lot of changes. And these aren't all individual, their own little things. These are all cultural changes. Not to mention the dozens that I didn't have time to put into this and fully explain. The company is expecting them to change the way they think and act entirely. And that's a very big expectation. The article points out how people are nervous and unsure about this. I read a quote from Jacoby Davis. It's really hard to describe the vast difference between the things we're moving towards and the types of legacy technology I've been working on. It's like night and day. The article then continues on with multiple workers questioning if they could or even would pivot to the new technology and culture, or if they would be retiring with the technology they've been experts on. And I do want to spend more time on the workers, but I think you get the point. And there is a good side to this. The AT&T needed this change to work, and it did. It was a pretty good success for AT&T. Overall positive growth rate, increased mobility and flexibility. It was a big change for the company, but a necessary one and successful one. But that's where we leave off, and where I bring our final question of the day in. If you were leading cultural changes in a big corporation, what would be some of the things you would want to give or offer your employees to help them adjust? AT&T was using a fund to help get people into the classes to start with, as well as making, I guess you could call it more clarity between promotions and jobs. Personally, I would do a lot of that, but I think I wouldn't be pushing so hard. But that's just me. I don't want to really stress people out that much. But there's also a reason I'm not an executive at these places. But that's going to be it. Have a good day, y'all.